Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Yolanda Mengia. While working in critical care many years ago, I had opportunities to assist with staff development. I enjoyed giving in-services and assisting new staff with the technology that we used at that time. I soon learned that more was involved teaching others than just my desire to teach. I had a few learners who came to my classes disengaged and not wanting to be there, who usually suffered through class because I missed opportunities to engage and motivate. Does my story sound familiar? Maybe you have even been the person in the audience. I recently came across a saying that's related to educators teaching in healthcare. The saying goes like this: the person you are teaching at times may be the only thing between the patient and the grave. Your job is to help this adult learner to get it right the first time, and in our workplace, we don't get do-overs. For me, this highlights the significance of our roles as healthcare educators and why it's so extremely important for us to find better ways to teach others. You are the person responsible for ensuring others in your unit have necessary knowledge, skills, and competencies to provide quality healthcare. So in this video titled Successfully Teaching Adult Learners, I will provide you with an introduction to andragogy, adult learning principles or assumptions, and provide effective teaching strategies based on the assumptions that you can incorporate into your educational activities for the adult learners in your department. This video is for novice educators who lack experience in training and teaching adult learners. Once this activity is completed, the educator will have knowledge of adult learning that can be used as they develop education for their departments. The objectives and contents were chosen based on observed needs and self-identified needs. Learners help plan the activity by providing input and suggestions on what to include and how to offer the learning activity. So let's begin by helping you to get started by reviewing the completion requirements. This activity is best done if you have 15 to 30 minutes to devote to this short activity. You will be asked to participate in activities by posting your responses to Yammer. You will need to set up a Yammer account and request to be added to the Learning Community group. You will be asked to provide your answers to questions, thoughts, and reflections and post them in this group. You may want to open a notepad or Word in another window and jot down your answers so that you can copy and paste them later. Once you have been accepted into the learning community, this will be an avenue for you and others to share your experience as educators and learn new ideas and strategies, all related to learning. So, before we go any further, I would like to show you how to access Yammer so you're familiar with it when it comes to placing your answers and your comments in the Yammer postings. So go to any browser, type in Outlook 365, For me, I have multiple accounts, so I'm going to select my work account. You may have to type in your work email address, and then you're going to be prompted to put in your password. This will bring you to Outlook 365, your email. You're going to click on the Outlook or the Microsoft icon. You're going to see several different icons. You're going to look for the one that's shaped as a Y, and that's the Yammer icon. It'll bring you up to the Yammer, and you'll be able to see the different groups that you belong to, and the one that you belong to as a result of this learning activity is Learning Community. So select that. Now we're in Learning Community. You'll be able to see all conversations and unread conversations, and here's the welcome, and you're going to reply to my welcome with your answers, your comments, and your questions. So it's very, very easy to do. The SMART learning objectives for this session are: define andragogy, describe the assumptions of adult learning, and identify teaching strategies based on the assumptions of adult learning. Now let's take a look at the issues that learners face in healthcare settings. Our learners are like most at other facilities. They have difficulty finding time during work hour to obtain required education. We know that our patient needs come first, and there's other distractors during the workday as well. Required or mandatory education may not be recognized as important, so therefore when the learner goes through the mandatory education, they may push click, click, click until they get to the end. And who hasn't done this sometimes? Education isn't seen as a priority. It may only become a priority when we need to solve a problem or need information to do a task. And the nursing staff are expected to obtain a BSN if they don't already have one. And yes, they need certification too in their areas of practice. Many want the convenience of online classes, but also want education video clips when the need arises. Or they may want to be able to complete mandatory education from home. Most of what we teach isn't retained. So how can we help our learners retain this information? So these are issues that we all have faced when we're teaching others, and these are documented in the literature. But have you discovered any others? So if you would now, please pause the video and jot down your thoughts on other barriers that learners face in the work environment. And when you're done, go ahead and resume the video. I would like now to propose that by learning about andragogy, the educator will be able to prepare the learners to learn and create a climate that is conducive to learning. This would include assessing the learner's needs, planning the activity, setting objectives, designing the learning plans, and evaluating the activity. Do you know what andragogy is? It is the study of adult learning, and it is different from a more familiar term, pedagogy. So let's review pedagogy first. Pedagogy is the study of how children learn. Pedagogy is described as being teacher-directed education and focused on the student learning specific subject matter. It is also based on 6 assumptions. These are the same assumptions for adult learning as well. The key thread in the pedagogical assumptions is that the learner is dependent and the teacher decides what is important for the student to know and directs the process. Learning is focused on subjects that are generally presented through lectures or assigned reading. Andragogy, on the other hand, is focused on the learner and is about the study of adult learning. Andragogy is associated with Malcolm Knowles. Knowles introduced the concept that adults learn differently than children back in the 70s. His work sparked a lot of controversy and research as others tried to better define how adults learn. From Knowles and others' research work, several assumptions have been identified regarding adult learning. The 6 assumptions are similar to the pedagogical one, although with a different twist. The 6 assumptions include the need to know, learner self-concept, role of experience, readiness to learn, orientation to learning, and motivation. Now let's explore the assumptions a little more closely. The adult learning assumptions are learner-focused. The first one, learners need to know why they need to learn. They have to have a reason for investing energy in a learning activity. How will they benefit from the information? What happens if they decide to not learn? We need to build a case for why they need to learn, and that will help the experience to be a meaningful one to the learner. Number 2, learners have self-direction over their own learning. If the learner feels like they are being forced to learn, like what happens with mandatory learning, the learner is more resistant to learning. They become less likely to learn. This is the opposite of what we want them to do with mandatory learning. Number 3, the adult learner's previous experience brings richness to the learning experience. By recognizing the backgrounds and experiences of the learners, it adds an element of worth to what the learner brings to the learning interaction. The learner is more likely to share and will feel valued as part of the learning group. Number 4, adults need to be ready to learn. Situations or problems that need solving create a readiness to learn. If it isn't present, readiness through mentoring or career counseling or performance appraisals and other ways can increase readiness to learn. Maybe you can think of other ways that you have been prompted to learn when you didn't feel ready at the beginning.
Number 5, the orientation which the learning occurs brings meaning to the adult learner. Adults are task-centered or problem-centered learners. If learning will help the adult focus on these areas, the adult is more willing to learn. Educators can create tasks or problems in class that would stimulate learning. We do this already with case studies. Number 6. And lastly, the adult learner needs to be motivated to learn. Barriers to learning should be recognized and removed for successful learning. Learning for certification or an advanced degree are external motivators to learning. Want to improve knowledge or to grow are examples of internal motivation. These are assumptions of adult learning that are based on adults as being self-directed learners.
We identified our learners' issues with learning. Now let's take a look at how we can address them. They have difficulty completing required education during work time, especially if time increments longer than 10 minutes are needed to complete an activity. Staff are called away to answer call-outs or take care of patients' needs. After all, isn't that why we're here for? When mandatory education is assigned, if the topic is mundane and doesn't seem to be pertinent to what they do, it doesn't make sense or it doesn't relate to them, so they're less likely to learn. I've been guilty of advancing to the next slide until the end. Attendance at live events isn't what it used to be a decade ago. Staff can't get away to attend classes if they are working. They don't want to come back to work on days off. Live classes where you're expected to sit in a room may not be the most convenient way to participate in learning. Education may not be a priority in your life. Families require time, and with limited time to offer our families, education takes a backseat to other priorities. Online education is convenient, but many times boring because there isn't a way to hook up with others, or it's just a presentation of material without any active learning. Lastly, most of what is taught is lost. The information isn't retained because we haven't been taught how to learn. So think about the assumptions of learning and how they can be applied to what you do. Here are my ideas. We can create a culture of learning by staying attuned to our staff's readiness to learn. The self-concept of our learner, we need to provide varied opportunities for our staff to learn when they recognize a need. We can do that with HealthStream and CE Center on Demand. Are there other ways to create this? Recognize others' experience by asking them to mentor novice learners and share information with others in creative ways such as blogging. For readiness to learn, be ready for just-in-time learning needs with resources, and I'm hoping that we can develop more CE related to those quick snippets of information. Orientation to learning. Set up learning based on problem solving or tasks. And motivation. Once again, create that culture where learning is nurtured in your department. Recognize staff who have recently attended a conference or maybe have achieved certification. Now take a moment to think of your own examples or ways that you can improve how our learners learn. So for activity 2, you're going to need about 5 minutes for this activity. Reflect and jot down or type into your notepad how you would address each of these 6 assumptions in the learning activities that you create. Now, as we wrap up, let's revisit our SMART learning objectives. You should be able to define andragogy, describe the assumptions of adult learning, and identify teaching strategies based on the assumptions of adult learning. Over the course of this video, we have looked at the 6 assumptions of adult learning principles. We have examined ways that we can apply them in our learning activities. Involving the learner as an active participant in their learning will make the activity successful and help them achieve the overall goal of the activity. I hope the discussions helped you to formulate ways to enhance the learning process. We will continue this discussion in Yammer. Be sure to place your comments under the Yammer Adult Learning Group and review others' comments as well. All questions posed on Yammer will be answered within 48 hours. The release of the second video will occur in about 2 months. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate your interest and look forward to hearing and reading your feedback. The references follow.